Okay. What's up, guys? Hello to everyone watching this back.
Bill couldn't forgive me for saving her that day. She'd needed to feel in control of something, and destroying me had given her that feeling, however briefly. I deleted the message without responding. There was nothing left to say. My parents drove me to college on a gray August morning. We didn't talk much on the drive. We were all exhausted, worn down by months of harassment and fear, but we were together. We'd survived. As we unloaded my things at the dorm, I noticed other families doing the same. Normal families with normal problems. Kids excited about their futures, parents proud and worried in equal measure. I envied them their simplicity. My roommate seemed nice enough. He didn't recognize my name, didn't know my story. It was a fresh start, or as fresh as it could be with the internet existing. I knew the story would follow me eventually. Someone would make the connection, spread the word. But for now, I could pretend to be just another freshman. Security footage that perfectly shows everything. How convenient that Mr. Cole just happens to get access right when it's needed most. The timing of Lucia's desperate house visit feels oddly calculated too. She's been so careful until now. Why suddenly get sloppy in front of witnesses? That night, alone in my dorm room, I thought about choices. The choice I'd made to save Lucia. The choice she'd made to destroy me. The choices we'd both have to live with forever. I'd saved her life, but I'd also taken something from her. She'd tried to take everything from me in return. Neither of us had won. We'd both lost something in the exchange. My phone buzzed with a text from my mom, checking in. Then one from Sarah, wishing me luck. Even Mr. Cole sent a brief email hoping I was settling in well. These people had stood by me when everything seemed lost. That had to count for something. I looked around my small dorm room, at the blank walls waiting to be filled with new memories, new experience, eating lunch.
Hold on, give me a second.
This wasn't the college experience I'd imagined, but it was mine. The next, I looked around my small dorm room, and the blank walls were filled with new memories, new experience, eating lunch.
Search app.
Next morning, I woke up to my roommate's alarm. He groaned, threw a pillow at me, and asked if I wanted to grab breakfast. I said yes. It was a small thing, a normal thing. But after months of anything but normal, I felt too busy to do that. I threw myself into it, grateful for the distraction. Psychology, ironically, made my faith. Understanding why people do what they do, how trauma shapes behavior, how pain is twisted and self-destructive. Weeks passed. The story didn't follow me as quickly as I'd feared. When it finally did surface, my hallmates' reactions surprised me. Some were curious, some sympathetic. A few avoided me, but most seemed to understand that there were two sides to every story. I even made friends, really friends, who knew my history and chose to know me anyway. We didn't talk about it much, but when we did, they listened without judgment. One night, studying in the library, I saw a news article about Lucia. She was speaking at a mental health awareness event, sharing her story of survival. The article mentioned the boy who'd called for help, saving her life. It didn't name me, and the tone was neutral, factual. She was healing in her own way, finding her own path forward. I closed the article and went back to my studies. We were both moving on, separately, carrying our scars and our stories. The girl with pretty eyes who'd wanted to die. The boy who'd saved her and paid the price. Two kids who'd made choices that changed everything. My phone buzzed. A text from a study group asking if I was coming. I packed up my things and headed out into the night, toward voices and laughter, and the possibility of normal college drama that had nothing to do with the past. The truth was, I'd do it again. Even knowing the cost, I'd still make that call, because Lucia was alive, troubled, angry, but alive. She had the chance to heal, to grow, to become whoever she was meant to be. That had to be worth something. As I walked across campus, I thought about second chances, how Lucia had gotten hers, even if she hadn't wanted it, how I was getting mine now. Marcus Royval stood near the student union, talking to someone from my dorm. I ducked into the library, my heart racing. Marcus being here couldn't be a coincidence. The college was 2 hours from home. He'd never mentioned plans to visit. I watched through the window as he showed something on his phone to the student, who nodded and pointed toward my dorm. That evening, I found my roommate acting strange. He kept glancing at me while pretending to study. His phone buzzed constantly with messages. When I asked him if he was okay, he was tired. Over the next few days, documenting everything again. The strange looks, the whispered conversations, the way people suddenly had their phones out when I walked by. But this time, I wasn't going to wait for things to escalate. I needed to get ahead of whatever Lucia was planning. My psychology professor had assigned us to write about trauma responses and recovery. As I researched, I found myself understanding Lucia's behavior more clearly. The need for control, the inability to let go, the way trauma could manifest as aggression toward those
Let
who
me just
taken away agency.
buy
It didn't excuse what she was doing, but it helped me see the pattern. Then I found the Instagram account about predators and started posting right when Lucia was discharged. The posts were careful, no names mentioned, but the details were unmistakable. Stories about a male student who had a history of stalking vulnerable women. Security footage that looked suspiciously like my dorm building. Photos taken from angles that suggested someone had been following me. The account grew quickly. My college was strong. Wasn't directly connected to anyone. She was letting others do the work, creating a movement of self-organizing. My grades started to go. How could I focus on calculus? How could I write essays when my laptop might be compromised? The paranoia was suffocating, which was exactly what she wanted. One night, my roommate finally broke. He showed me the messages he could get. Anonymous accounts warning him about living with a dangerous person. Links to articles about him saving. Stories that sounded just real enough to plant doubt. He said he'd requested a room change for his own safety. I spent that night in the library, afraid to go back to my dorm. That's when I met Theo. He was a junior, working the late shift at the help desk. He noticed I'd been there every night that week and asked if I was okay. Something about his genuine concern broke through my walls. I found myself telling him everything, not the whole story, but enough. About someone from my past trying to destroy my reputation, about feeling trapped and alone. Theo listened without judgment. Then he told me about his freshman year, when his ex had started a smear campaign against him after their breakup. How he'd learned to document everything, to build a support network, to refuse to let someone else's pain destroy his future. He introduced me to others who faced similar situations. Not a formal support group, just students who understood what it was like to be targeted. They taught me practical things, how to check for hidden cameras, how to secure my social media, how to recognize manipulation tactics. But Lucia was escalating faster than I could adapt. The Instagram accounts became more specific, more damaging. They started including details that only someone from our high school would know, twisted just enough to sound sinister. My name was never mentioned, but anyone who knew me could connect the dots. The campus security called me in for a meeting. They'd received multiple reports about my behavior, nothing specific enough to take action on, but enough to create a file. They suggested I might benefit from counseling and gave me pamphlets about appropriate behavior. The security officer's expression made it clear he thought where there was smoke, there was fire. I was losing again. But this time, I had people who believed me. Theo and his friends helped me create my own documentation. We tracked the IP addresses of the anonymous accounts, found patterns in the posting times, identified stock photos being used to create fake victims. Then Sarah sent another urgent message. She'd overheard something terrifying. Lucia was coming to campus, not just visiting, but moving here. She'd convinced her parents that being near me would help her healing process, that facing her trauma was necessary for recovery. They'd helped her get an apartment off campus. The next phase was beginning, and I knew it would be worse than before. On campus, she'd have access to everything. My schedule, my habits, my safe spaces. She could orchestrate encounters that would look random and fake. She could build her narrative in real time. I considered transferring schools, starting over somewhere else, running to confirm every lie she'd spread. There was no guarantee she wouldn't follow me. This happened. Theo helped me with her. We mapped out campus, identifying cameras and blind spots. We created a buddy system, ensuring I was never alone in vulnerable situations. We even reached out to Mr. Cole, provided a written statement about what he witnessed, though we knew it wouldn't carry much weight. Marcus playing detective with his phone while pretending to be casual visitor is Pete. I'm definitely not here to cause drama and energy, but everyone knows you don't travel 2 hours just to admire campus architecture. The day Lucia arrived on campus, I felt it immediately. The atmosphere shifted. People who started to doubt the rumors and suddenly had new potential.
Apparently these like all my friends.
I saw her for the first time outside.
Is that Ollie up?
She was talking to a group of students, gesturing animatedly. When she noticed me, she didn't react, just continued her conversation as if I didn't exist. But I knew this was calculated. She was establishing herself as a presence on campus, building relationships, creating her network. Every interaction was a move in her game. The encounter started small. She'd appear in the coffee shop right after I arrived, forcing me to decide whether to stay or leave. She'd sit in the back of the lecture hall for my psychology class, even though she wasn't enrolled. She was everywhere and nowhere, visible but untouchable. My new friends started getting targeted. Theo was
Shut
There were some
up.
photos posted. The message was clear. Supporting me came with a cost. Some distanced themselves. I couldn't blame them. But others, like Theo, doubled down. He said he faced bullies before. He wasn't about to let another one win. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. My psychology professor pulled me aside after class. She noticed Lucia attending lectures without being enrolled. She'd also received several anonymous emails about me that felt orchestrated. As someone who studied human behavior, she recognized
Of course he wants the full burger.
intervened directly, but she suggested I look into the college's policies
Something
on harassment
else,
and stalking. Not to file a report, since that would likely backfire, but to understand my rights and options. She also mentioned that the college took unauthorized access to classes seriously. That gave me an idea. Instead of defending against Lucia's attacks, I could document her actual violations, attending classes she wasn't enrolled in, accessing buildings with someone else's ID, creating a hostile environment for enrolled students. Theo and I spent weeks carefully documenting everything. We didn't focus on the anonymous accounts or the rumors. Instead, we tracked Lucia's physical presence, when she attended my classes, when she appeared in my dorm building without authorization, when she photographed me without consent. The evidence pile grew. Security footage of her tailgating into restricted buildings, sign-in logs showing she'd lied about her reasons for being on campus, photos of her taking pictures of me during lectures. But I knew documentation alone wouldn't stop her. She needed to overplay her hand again, like she had at my house. I needed to create a situation where her mask would slip in front of witnesses. The opportunity came during a campus safety workshop. The topic was bystander intervention, and I knew Lucia wouldn't miss the chance to attend. Sure enough, she was there, sitting with a group of students she'd befriended. During the discussion portion, the facilitator asked about personal experiences with feeling unsafe on campus. I raised my hand. Calmly, without naming names, I described being followed between classes, photographed without consent, and having someone attend my lectures without being enrolled. I watched Lucia's face tighten. This wasn't part of her script. When the facilitator asked follow-up questions, I provided specific details: the dates, the times, the locations. Other students started nodding, recognizing the behaviors. Lucia couldn't help herself. She interrupted, saying that sometimes people misinterpret innocent actions as threats, that maybe the person I was describing had their own reasons for being so. Her voice was controlled, but I could see the anger. The facilitator, trained in recognizing manipulation, picked up on the dynamic in the air. She redirected the conversation, but I saw her after the workshop. I went first to providing my documentation. The facilitator's expression was more concerned than she was. This wasn't about rumors or social media. This was about concrete policy violations. When Lucia emerged, her face was flushed. She'd been informed that attending classes without enrollment was grounds for removal. Candace, that photographing students without consent violated privacy policies, that she needed to provide legitimate reasons for her presence in campus buildings. But Lucia wasn't done. That night, the anonymous accounts exploded with new content. Fake screenshots of messages I'd supposedly sent, doctored photos suggesting inappropriate behavior, a coordinated campaign to destroy me before the administration could act. My phone rang at 2 a.m. It was Theo, panicked. Someone had called the police, reporting that I was planning something dangerous. Multiple anonymous tips had come in. The police were looking for me. I stayed calm, told campus security myself, and explained the situation. I was in my dorm room, exactly where I was supposed to be. When the officers arrived, I cooperated fully. They quickly realized the reports were false, but the damage was done. Another file, another record of police involvement. The next morning, I made a decision. I was done playing defense. I walked into the administration building and filed a formal complaint. Not about the rumors or the social media campaign, but about the documented policy violations, the unauthorized class attendance, the illegal photography, the false police reports. I named Lucia directly, provided all my evidence, the security footage, the witness statements, the pattern of behavior. I also included Mr. Cole's statement and the documentation from high school, establishing a pattern of harassment. The administration had to act. This wasn't about he said, she said anymore. This was about clear violations with evidence. They launched an investigation. Lucia tried to spin it as retaliation, but the evidence was too strong. The security footage didn't lie. The false police reports could be traced. Her own friends, when questioned officially, admitted she'd asked them to watch me, to report my movements. The investigation took 2 weeks. During that time, Lucia escalated desperately. She staged another confrontation, this time in the dining hall, trying to provoke a reaction. But I was ready. I kept my distance, stayed calm, let her performance play out in front of hundreds of witnesses. When she realized I wouldn't engage, she made her biggest mistake. She grabbed my arm as I tried to leave, screaming that I was running away again, that I couldn't face what I'd done. But this time, dozens of phones captured the truth. Me trying to leave peacefully, her physically preventing me, her aggression, not mine. Security intervened. The whole incident was recorded on multiple cameras. There was no way to edit or spin what happened. Lucia had finally shown her true face in a way that couldn't be denied. The administration administration's decision came down a week later. Lucia was banned from campus. Her unauthorized presence would be considered trespassing. The false police reports had been referred to local authorities. Several students who helped spread false information received warnings. But even in defeat, Lucia tried one last manipulation. She posted a long message on social media about being silent, about powerful institutions protecting predators. Some people believed they always would. The majority saw through. The evidence was too overwhelming. I thought it would. But a month later, I received a letter, not from Lucia, but from her parents. They apologized for not seeing what their daughter was doing. They explained that she was getting real help now, intensive therapy with specialists who understood her condition. They thanked me for saving her life 3 years ago, even though she couldn't see it that way. They also included a letter from Lucia. I hesitated before opening it. Her handwriting was different, less controlled. She didn't apologize exactly, but she acknowledged what she'd done. She wrote about the therapy, about understanding her need for control, about learning to live with the choice I'd taken from her. She ended by saying she was transferring to a school across the country, but we never cross paths again. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say, but I kept the letter as a reminder that even our darkest choices can come from places of deep pain. The rest of my freshman year passed quietly. The rumors faded. New scandals replaced old ones. Some people still looked at me suspiciously, but most moved on. I rejoined study groups, made new friends, rebuilt what had been torn down. Theo became my closest friend. We'd been through
It's
something
limited, I
intense
think.
together, and that created a bond. He introduced me to his girlfriend, Margaret, who'd had her own experience with a stalker. The three of us
Okay,
formed
damn.
our own support
$100
network.
there.
My grades recovered. My psychology professor became a mentor, helping me understand not just what had happened, but why. I wrote my final paper on trauma responses and the cycle of victim and aggressor. It was the
I'm
best
pretty
work
sure
I'd
there's
ever done.
limited,
Sarah
yeah.
stayed in touch. She was proud of how I'd handled everything, how I'd found a way to fight back without becoming cruel
Give me that
myself.
boat.
She was applying to law school, inspired by seeing how the system could work when properly engaged. Mr. Cole sent an email near the end of the year. He'd heard about what happened at college and wanted me to know he was proud of how I'd handled it. He reminded me that saving a life was never wrong, even when the person couldn't appreciate it. Summer arrived with its promise of a fresh start. I decided to stay on campus, taking classes and working in the library. Lucia's parents writing to thank him for saving their daughter's life while she was actively trying to destroy his seems oddly timed. The whole family dynamic here feels strange. Where were they during all this stalking and harassment that apparently required intensive therapy with specialists? I needed to reclaim this space as mine, to build new memories that weren't tainted by fear and paranoia. One evening, I was studying in my favorite spot when my phone buzzed. For a moment, my heart raced, expecting another anonymous threat. But it was just my mom, sending pictures from a family barbecue. Normal, everyday life continuing despite everything. I realized then that Lucia hadn't won. She'd tried to take everything from me piece by piece, but I'd rebuilt each time. My family still loved me. I had real friends who'd stood by me. I was still in
Select the
college,
gear
still
icon at
moving
the
toward
top
my
right.
future. The scars were there. I still
Underneath
checked over my
account,
shoulder
you
more
want to
than
select
Yeah, I
the
don't
view that
need
says
that.
manage all
I
history
saw
on
someone
the
who
left
looked
panel.
like her, but I was healing too.
They're like a
And then
chat.
select
I
interactions
that
underneath
night. I thought
YouTube
about the
history.
strange symmetry of it all.
Underneath
3 years
video
ago, I
interactions,
saved
select
Lucia's life
live
and
chat
changed both our
messages, and
futures.
that's
She'd
the
spent
list of
years
all.
trying to
Give me a
destroy
second,
mine in
guys.
return, but in the end, we were both still here, still fighting, still trying to find our way forward. The campus was quiet as I walked back to my dorm. Summer students moved in small groups, laughing about something on someone's phone. The normalcy of it felt like a gift. I was just another student walking home, in the best way. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Theo, asking if I wanted to grab pizza with him and Margaret. I smiled and texted back, yes. Life was moving forward, one normal moment at a time. That's all I wanted from the beginning. Not to be a hero or a villain, just to be a regular college student worried about exams and weekend plans. Lucia had tried to take that from
Okay,
me,
y'all,
but
we're
she
back.
failed. I was still here, still myself, still choosing to see the good in people despite everything. As I entered my dorm, I made a decision. I would take the lessons from this experience, but I wouldn't let it define me. I'd saved a life once and paid a price for it, but I'd also learned to save my own life, to fight for my own future. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but they'd be normal ones. Classes to attend, papers to write, friends to meet. The kind of problems I dreamed of having during those dark days when Lucia's campaign was at its worst. I climbed the stairs to my room, feeling lighter than I had in months. Whatever came next, I was ready for it. Not because I was strong or special, but because I'd learned that sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be destroyed. The door to my room closed behind me with a quiet click. Outside, life on campus continued. Inside, I opened my laptop and started working on my summer coursework. Just another student, just another night, just another step toward whatever future I could build. It wasn't the ending either of us had planned 3 years ago, but it was real, and it was mine, and that was enough. Thanks for hanging out and letting me toss in my clever takes. Always fun being your witty sidekick for the ride. Catch you on the flip side. If you made it to the end, drop a comment. I love reading all your comments.
tabs you open here
That was good. I like that
are
one.
also here. Choose Chrome to share tabs.
What's this?
Oh my gosh, I'm juking this guy out. He's stuck. Wait, I'm gonna lead him to this trap here. Bro, you can't hit me. He's been like chasing me for 30 seconds. Oh my gosh, he finally hit me. Oh my gosh, I'm actually getting away with it. Let's go. Bro, someone else hit me. That's not even your pet. No, I'm gonna hit him back. Die.
Okay, wait, that's doing one.